Chris Kroeger, joined by Hornets President of Basketball Operations, General Manager Mitch Kupchak. Mitch, it's been a busy few days. We're here at Summer League, all that's going on, and then finally get to finalize the trade for Dwight Howard to the Brooklyn Nets, a couple of draft picks back in return, Timothy Mozgov. We'll start there because there's another move after that, but just generally, what went into that move and what was the thought process there?
Well, with Dwight, with our new staff and coach, and we spent time talking and meeting, and the feeling was the coach wasn't going to play the kind of game that, Dwight can really excel at and, play a lot of minutes. So rather than go down that road, the decision was made to try to, make a move. And, we also were up against the tax, so we tried to create some space so we can use the money and bring in some other players. So, it obviously for us, we felt it was the right thing, and Dwight would not have been happy. I know he was a little bit taken aback by the move, but he's in a better place now, and he's in a position where he can have a great year and maybe continue his career.
Well, let's talk about that for a second before we move on to the next move. Dwight accepts a buyout with Brooklyn, and he became a free agent. He signed with the Wizards. There is a question of why not buy him out here. You could use the stretch provision. Why was that not an option here to maybe explore that route with Dwight and instead go the route of a trade?
Well, we did end up, I believe, with 4 second-round picks. And picks are very, very important going forward for us, for this franchise, and in the NBA. The main reason, once again, was to create some space, get him. We got an asset in Timofey, and we were able to move Timofey and create even more assets for us. So, looking back on it, to think that we could get 4 picks and have the flexibility to add players, I think I'd be very happy where we are today.
And one of those picks, 45th overall, you used that to select the draft rights to Hamidou Diallo. You traded that to Oklahoma City. You got another draft pick in return there. But the 2 picks you talk about in Timothy Mozgov, you finalized a trade with a 3-way trade with the Bulls and the Magic to bring in Bismack Biyombo, where he was originally drafted. You acquired a couple of second-round picks. Right. Were you content with keeping Timothy on this roster, and this was something that presented itself, or was this always the end goal here to make another trade?
No, that was the understanding when we made the move, that Timofey would stay with us and work and try to create some playing time for himself in training camp. The deal that we just created, that was just done, came about 10 days ago, and we just kept talking about it. And, we didn't have a player like Bismack on the team, somebody that can rebound like that, somebody that can defend the paint, defend the rim. He's not the perfect player, and there aren't that many perfect players out there. But we didn't have a player like him, so when the opportunity came along, and of course we just talked about the picks, and who knows what the future brings. There could be another deal tomorrow, and there could be another deal 4 months from now or a year from now. So, you kind of go along, and as you're going along, you examine the opportunities, you look for opportunities, and you weigh it against what you have. And if you think it makes some sense, you do it.
One of the assets you also acquired is a trade exception, and that's a sizable trade exception. Who knows what the future holds, as you said, but that's another asset you got in the deal with Brooklyn that could be something for a team with limited cap space now, as you said, to maybe improve this roster either now or at some point once the year gets underway.
I think it's tough for people to wrap their arms around something called a trade exception in general. But yes, there was a trade exception that was created, which is the difference between Timofey's contract and Dwight's contract. So it's about an $8 million trade exception, and we can use it now. We could use it prior to the trade deadline, and we can even use it next season up until the day we got it this year, which I believe is July 6th. So it is a valuable way. It's a valuable tool, and general managers, they know the value of something like that. And if you have a big one, you're always involved, or you always have an opportunity.
Well, just looking generally at the roster, we'll wrap with this. I think you look at where things are fleshed out with the draft picks over the last couple of years, the veterans that are already on this team, any deals that have been agreed to but maybe not finalized. You're not looking at a lot of spots left, right? So for you, as you address the needs of this team, maybe a 4-man, what are you looking at potentially to fill out the rest of this roster?
Well, clearly, we have an understanding with Tony Parker, and he would be a great addition to this club. Looking for somebody in the backcourt that could play 15 to 18 minutes a game. And I think the bonus with him would be his presence in the locker room, his leadership, and his experience in terms of winning. This franchise has been in the playoffs. So they know what it's like to get into the playoffs, but they weren't able to advance. And, once you're in the playoffs, trying to advance, each round gets tougher and tougher. So it's great to have somebody like Tony in the locker room. But first and foremost, we did need somebody to play minutes. He wasn't just brought in as a presence. We need a player that can play, and he wants to play. He would be our 14th player, and I think right now we'd like to go into the season with just 14 players. You're allowed 15. But keeping one open, I think, would be strategically a good thing for us to do. So I think right now, we'll continue to look for opportunities and, potential ways to improve the team. But in terms of filling out a roster, I think we're pretty comfortable right now.
Well, Mitch, it's been a busy few days. Find some rest in between some of these games out here in Las Vegas. Thanks for the time.
In Las Vegas, find rest? That's not possible. There's just literally too much going on here. You got to get to your room, and you got to lay down, and then you got to get through that casino somehow and get here. But the whole thing is so much fun. The whole summer league and the two buildings and all the players is just a wonderful thing.